All right, I'd like to call to order the June 12, 2024 meeting of the Sebastian City Council. Please rise for a moment of silence and then the pledge led by Vice Mayor Dixon. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty, with justice for all.
Can you have a roll call, please?
Mayor Dodd.
Here.
Vice Mayor Dixon.
Here.
Councilmember Jones.
Here.
Councilmember McPartlin.
Here.
And Councilmember Nunn.
Here.
Thank you.
All right, Council, we have one agenda modification. We're going to add item number 12E. That's new business item E, which is Blue Value Solutions. I think the city manager passed out a packet of information to each position up here. I'm sorry to people in the audience that it wasn't prepared in time to be in the agenda packet, so you might not have seen that. Anyone else have any agenda modifications they'd like to make? No? Okay. And I'm going to say the agenda as modified is accepted by acclamation.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Now I have two proclamations, and then we have another item that the city manager is going to handle. The first proclamation is to Mr. John L. Dance. He's not here. We were hoping he'd be here this evening. He has been an extraordinary member of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee for years. He teaches tennis locally, or he did before he got to the point where I'm not sure he's actually teaching tennis much anymore. But and this is a achievement award to him for his time on the Parks and Recreation Committee. We'll get this to him as soon as we can do that. Thank you. And then I have a proclamation. This is National League of Cities proclamations for Small Cities Month. I'm going to read that from up here. Whereas small cities and towns under 50,000 population are the home to millions of Americans and constitute the vast majority of municipalities across the United States. And whereas small cities and towns strive to strengthen their communities through the provisions of services and programs to improve the quality of life for all citizens. And whereas the federal government is an essential partner in the success of small cities and towns and must be encouraged to continue to support programs and legislation that strengthen small communities. And whereas state governments are partners in success of small cities and towns and must be encouraged to continue to support key programs and legislation that strengthen small communities. And whereas organizations, businesses, and citizens are partners in the success of small cities and towns and must be encouraged to continue to grow their efforts to make small communities a viable choice for people to live in. And whereas during those challenging economic times, the need for a renewed intergovernmental partnership to support essential public services is more important than ever to ensure the safety and growth of small-town America. Whereas the National League of Cities President and the Small Cities Council of the National League of Cities have declared June 2024 as Small Cities Month. And therefore, I, Ed Dodd, by virtue of the authority vested in me as Mayor of the City of Sebastian, do hereby proclaim the month of June 2024 as Small Cities Month and encourage President Biden, Congress, state governments, organizations, businesses, and all citizens to recognize this event and to work together this month throughout the year to invest in small cities and towns and to better the lives of all citizens. In witness thereof, to hereunto I set my hand and cause the seal of the City of Sebastian, Florida, to be affixed this 12th day of June, 2024. Ed Dodd, Mayor. I will make a couple of comments on top of that. I'm pretty active in the Florida League of Cities, and I'll tell you that the League of Cities, statewide and national, is the thing that tries to stop larger governments from turning cities into deserts, which is what they keep trying to do with large amounts of unfunded mandates back to the local governments. And a great example we're going to, I think, talk about later on tonight is what the state of Florida is doing within our septic to sewer type conversion things. And we have to constantly be on the lookout and meet with the people who are in those legislative bodies and try to convince them that that in reality, small town America is where the country really is. Okay, this is actually where democracy works, not the federal level. This is actually where the people have a larger role and a larger say in what goes on than they have at the federal or state level. And I don't think very many small cities like Sebastian can play the games that they play. And, you know, I keep telling people that there's nothing Republican or Democrat about fixing a pothole. And that's exactly what happens at local governments. We have to put all that stuff aside and fix the potholes or whatever it is that we need to do. So if you can do anything to support the Florida League of Cities and to support the National League of Cities, it would be really great from my perspective. Thank you. Okay, we're on now to brief announcements, Madam Vice Mayor.
That's City Manager.
City Manager.
Oh, I'm sorry, Brian. You haven't.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I just want to take a brief moment. We have, we brought on board our new Public Works Director who will be in charge of the Roads Division, Stormwater Division, Sign Shop, and Garage Fleet. And Mr. Lee Plord, he's in the audience here tonight. Lee, if you can stand up. So Lee started his employment with us last Monday, June 3rd. He joins us. He is a former Marine. He also joins us in working with the federal prison system up north for many years. And he has a wide array of skills and leadership, and I think he's going to be a great asset to the city. So I want to take an opportunity for the residents to get a chance to meet Lee tonight, and feel free to reach out to him. But he is our new Public Works Director. So welcome, Lee. We're glad to have you.
Thank you, Brian. And Fred, I tried to get him to tell me what color crayon he likes, and he wouldn't divulge it. He kept it secret.
Yeah, he don't like the red ones. I do. I think he likes the yellow ones.
Is it the yellow ones? Okay. All right, now we're on to your.
No problem. So Friday, June 28th is the Chamber of Commerce Finally Friday on Cleveland Street. I believe it's the last one of the season. From 5:30 to 8 p.m., and there will be music by Swamp Dog. I attended the last Finally Friday, and it was, I think, like double the amount of people there. It was a great showing, great weather, and hopefully everyone will go out and enjoy.
All right. Next item on the agenda is public input. Is there anyone from the audience who would like to address the council on anything that is not on the current agenda? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Council. My name's Abigail Sullivan, and I live in Sebastian. Something to suggest for the bathrooms at the parks and on the golf courses, because we all love spending outside in this great state and in Sebastian. But the Florida hot summer, and we spend time outside, you're sweating a lot. So when we go to the restrooms at those parks or in the golf, on the golf course, you are already sweating, but then you go and walk in, and it's hot like a sauna in there because the heat's been building up and there's no air moving, so it's hot and it might be a little stinky. So the sweat starts dripping even more and there's no air moving in the buildings. So I think myself and maybe a few others probably would like to see improvements in that, because we don't want anyone dropping from heat stroke in those buildings, especially on a hot day. So we don't want any catastrophes like that. But I would suggest just maybe putting like a gable fan in or something like a turnstile roof fan just to get some air moving. I've driven to a few of the parks in Sebastian, and I noticed there's those floor screens that you guys have. So I know that there's some air moving, but not a lot, because especially if you're outside. So just something to help get the air moving, that would help tremendously. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Good evening, everybody. And my name is Martin Steiger. I live in Sebastian for a number of years now. I first came from New Jersey, came down here back in '05. And upon coming here, I purchased a new construction out in what's called, just trying to think of it now. Whoop. But anyway, when I moved in there, I have a problem with, the mayor had just gone over how the Constitution and the country is run by from the local level up. And basically that's where we get most of our freedoms from, and people get a chance to speak. And hopefully the right decisions are made. Recently, the council had passed a resolution requiring everyone to have a service of their waste removal with the company that's sending me monthly bills. And the thing I have a problem with is I've been living here now going on 19 years. Everywhere I moved, there was no service for pickup, garbage pickup. The recycling center is the only place that I could bring it. And I've been doing that for 19 years with no problems. And recently, the council passed a ruling saying that everyone now in the city of Sebastian has no longer a choice as to where they and who's going to take care of their garbage. And to the point where now, like I said, apparently something was done by the town council, and without notifying, I don't think 50% of the people that live in Sebastian even know that that was being voted on. I never got any communications whatsoever from the town about the decision that was going to be made, and no explanation as to why it has to be forced upon everybody, that even people that are not yearly residents here are required to pay for a service that they don't use and don't need, and without any recourse. I'm on a limited budget. Everything around me keeps going up except my income. And like I said, I've been getting a bill from Waste Management, which I have never signed a contract with. And I've never gotten anything, like I said, in writing, and no communication whatsoever from the town saying that they were going to pass this here ordinance. And I'm just wondering, he just had a good speech about how people have the best voice and get everything done at the local level. And I don't know, I came to a couple of meetings when they first heard about it, not from the government, just from word of mouth of somebody else. And when I came to the meetings, it seemed like most of the people at the meeting were opposed to it being forced upon everybody. They didn't have any problem. Matter of fact, my sister was getting service from Waste Management for years. And then to come find out that there was negotiations that were being done, and they said they couldn't get any responses from anybody. And yet I went to a meeting over there in Indian River and at the county level, and they had 5 offers and responses from different companies and everything. And over here, I was told that nobody responded. And it's hard for me to believe that nobody responded, and unless maybe all the information wasn't put out there properly. So I'm upset. I'm upset with a lot of things going on in my government today. I feel like I'm an American citizen. I didn't fight for my country. I served for my country. I put my time in. I did everything. I tried to obey all the laws, and yet I see people that are not even legally in our country breaking all the laws, and yet they don't get punished. If I go 5 miles over the speed limit, I get a ticket. And these people can break our laws, and nothing is done. On the local level, on a state level, I'm at a point where I have children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren now. And I'm worried about what direction my country is going, because from what I see happening in my country today, I'm just praying to God every day that we keep our country, because it looks like, even starting at this level, that the council went ahead and did something without notifying the public and forcing everybody to have a service that they don't, in some cases they wanted, and in some cases didn't want or didn't need. And it goes to the state level, now the federal level, in our courts. I see things going on in our court system that causes me to almost want to swear as to who is running our country. And where are we going?
Sir,
I'm scared.
your time's up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to say that, and I just want to know why they keep sending me bills when I never signed a contract with them.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Anyone else from the audience would like to address the council? Okay, seeing none. All right, we're going to move on to the consent agenda. Council, what's your intention on the consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I recommend approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any comments from anyone? All right, let's have a roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Dixon,
Yes.
Councilmember Jones,
Yes.
Councilmember McPartlin,
Yes.
Councilmember Nunn,
Yes.
and Mayor Dodd.
Yes.
Carries. Thank you.
Okay, committee reports and appointments. Item number 1, Police Pension Board Trustees. Appoint 1 civilian resident trustee. I believe we only have 1 person applying for that application. So I would like to recommend to the council that we appoint Robert Allen.
Second. If needed.
Yes. We have an appointment in a
Yes.
second. All right, okay. And Mr. Allen is on the, yes, sir, you're on the Police Pension Board. They'll contact you, set it up for the first meeting and get you some information. The clerk will contact you probably. I'm not sure how they do that with the Police Pension Board, so you'll be contacted, okay? And then the next one is the Natural Resources Board. And I believe we only have 1 applicant for that as well. And that would be Paul Duvall. So on Natural Resources Board, I would recommend that we reappoint Joanne White, and that we appoint Richard.
Mr.
The
Mayor.
other one. This is natural resources.
That's natural, okay, that's Parks and Rec, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Natural Resources, that we appoint Paul Duvall to the open alternate member position.
Second.
Anyone?
Yes.
Any comments from anyone?
Sounds good.
Okay, now, on the Parks and Recs Advisory Board meeting, I would recommend that we reappoint Joanne White and that we appoint Robert Marino, who is currently an alternate, to the open position, which is Mr. Nance's position, I believe, and then appoint Daniel, I can say that right, Evercheros, to the open alternate position.
I'll second that.
Any questions on that? Okay, all that's done by acclamation. You get it?
Yep.
Yes.
That works.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I just wanted to point out that, see Robert Allen down there on your list? You just put him on the Police Pension Board.
Yes.
Would you be interested in waiving the rules and appointing the other applicant, Paul Halloran, to the now open position?
On the Police Pension Board?
No.
No, on
No.
Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec.
Okay, I thought let me make sure I got this right. I thought we reappointed Joanne White, and then we appointed Richard, the other, and then we appointed David.
Daniel.
But with Mr. Allen leaving this board, she's saying we could appoint Paul
Oh,
Halloran.
I see what you're saying, yes.
Waive the rules if we
Mr.
want
Allen
to
was
waive
on
the
the,
rules.
it was on the Parks and Recs Board?
If council
Yes, he's
agrees.
an alternate member. Okay. So then, you're right, okay. I would like to recommend that we appoint Paul Halloran to take Mr. Allen's open alternate membership position. Is that correct?
Yeah, but let's waive the
We
rules
have to waive the
first.
rules first.
Okay, I'll
Thank
recommend
you.
that we, this is a motion. I make a motion that we waive the rules for advertising the alternate member position,
Okay.
and that we appoint Mr.
Halloran.
Paul Halloran.
Paul Halloran to that position.
Second.
Need a second. Now, we'll need a voice vote on that.
Okay. Councilmember Jones?
Yes.
Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Nunn?
Yes.
Mayor Dodd?
Yes.
And Vice Mayor Dixon?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, now that we've taken care of all of the committee reports, we have no public hearings, which is nice. We're into unfinished business. City Council consideration proposed working timeline from Steel Dragon. That's on page 86 of your agenda packet. City staff like to present something on that?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So for your consideration here with item 11A is a proposed working timeline for the property that is currently our old Public Works compound at 100 Veterans Memorial Way. This working timeline is for Steel Dragon North America LLC to submit this is a timeline that will fall underneath the proposed agreement, which is item 11B. So in order to advance to reviewing the agreement, we have to have a decision on whether you all approve the working timeline as presented. This timeline goes into detail. There were some concerns during our negotiations with the agreement in regards to the timeline that was submitted in the proposal. Since it took us a little longer than expected to negotiate the agreement, I feel as though this is a more adequate timeline to follow for Steel Dragon, and they are in agreement as well. And the owner, Mr. Larry Taylor, is here if you all have any questions for him from Steel Dragon.
And this is a modification of the timeline that was in the RFP response?
Yes, it is.
That's correct? Okay.
Yes. This is a more detailed timeline. The timeline that was included in the RFP was a general
Okay.
timeline.
This-
Now that we've worked through coming to an agreement on the proposed agreement, now that we've worked to get to that, this is a more detailed timeline based on the current market conditions and elements. Mr. Taylor can go into more detail on that.
Yeah.
And I would also say that we're pretty much ready to go. We had a site visit last week with the architect to pull some measurements off of that first building A, the building that the equipment company will move directly into. Because my understanding is that the building official wants us to get a bathroom in there and also reclassify the building and do some other stuff in there. So we had a meeting last week with the architect so we could get some details together. That was about our fourth visit on the property, I think, maybe fifth. And we got, I guess we got lucky. You know, there was supposed to be a bathroom in that building already. It was on one of the city drawings. I don't know if you know that, Brian, but one of the work tables that's in that building was plopped right over top of all of the plumbing that was set up for the future bathroom that never got built in that building. So I'm really happy to report that we're going to try to utilize that because I just kind of dread the fact of having to chip the floor up. But anyway, the point is that we're pushing ahead, and my first order of business after we leave here is to get Joe
Okay,
Siki
good.
completely engaged.
Yeah. I just want to make sure that everybody understands that this is not a substantial modification of the RFP response. All right, okay, that's good. Yeah. Good. Okay, any questions from any of the council members?
Seems to me to be more of a clarification of timeline.
yeah.
So I'm all for Reddit. Seems to make sense.
Just the gentleman state his name for the record.
Oh, yes, you need to give your name for the record, I know.
Sure. My name is Lawrence Wayne Taylor.
Thank you. I move approval of the timeline for the Steel Dragon project.
Second.
So anyone from the public like to address this item? You can sit down.
Sure.
You're going to be up next. You might sit in the front if you don't mind.
You sit right there in front.
Or we can stare at you that way.
Yeah. That way you don't have to walk so far. Anyone from the public like to address this item? Seeing none. All right, let's have a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Nunn?
Yes.
Mayor Dodd?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Dixon?
Yes.
And Councilmember Jones?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
All right. This is item number 11B, which is the City Council consideration of the proposed as-is property sale and purchase agreement with Steel Dragon North America LLC for the property located at 100 Veterans Memorial Way, and authorize the mayor and city manager to execute all appropriate documentation. Would the state like to make a presentation on this?
Thank you, Mayor. So as you just mentioned, this is our request for your approval for the proposed as-is property sale and purchase agreement with Steel Dragon North America LLC for 100 Veterans Memorial Way, formerly known as our old Public Works compound property. The purchase price is $1,050,000, and we are requesting approval to proceed with the purchase agreement. If you all approve it, once it is executed, we will proceed to a closing on the property within 60 days per the agreement.
Staff, any questions? Any questions of council? Seeing none. Any questions from the audience? Okay, Brian, just one thing. The money, once it comes in, what's the disposition of that cash?
So I've spoken with our finance department, and I think our best course of action is that we designate the proceeds for a future city enhancement program.
Okay.
We would establish a project in a fund balance that would hold the fund. It would be separate. It could not be used for any project until that project is designated from City Council. So it would stay allocated in a specific project, just titled as Future City Enhancement Program.
Very good. That way the money isn't, this is found money and it's extraordinary income, and we should make sure we use it for something that merits using that money for. So
Absolutely.
I like that. Okay, council, any questions for Brian or for anybody else?
I do have one question. So does that mean that money could be used for CRA, district project, park project, something like that, if needed and approved?
That money could be used for whatever, basically, City Council allocates those funds to be used for.
New rec center?
Love it.
And just to clarify, it will not be utilized by a general fund, anything.
Right.
It would have to be allocated. It's going to be in a project fund that would have to be allocated by City Council.
Awesome.
Great.
Well, I recommend approval of the purchase agreement.
Second.
Any comments from anyone?
I guess just one comment that we are getting fair market value for the property. It's not like, it's, you know,
We have an appraisal on the property, and it was appraised based on its current use and fair.
right. I just
I
want
know.
that pointed out that it
I know,
was.
we've heard from people that it's
Yes.
worth a lot more money, but they haven't come across with a check or with a purchase order. So,
I'm just excited to see the property used, and when landscaping gets done, just excited to see that area improved.
yeah, we do have an appraisal on that property. And Brian is comfortable that that appraisal was based on the appropriate.
No, I know that. I'm just saying that,
Yeah,
you know, for the,
yeah.
for the
Fair
the
market value.
naysayers that say we did.
Right.
Yes. Okay, let's have a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Nunn,
Yes.
Mayor Dodd,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Dixon,
Yes.
Councilmember Jones,
Yes.
and Councilmember McPartlin.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, under new business, item 12A, Mr. Benton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So as you all are currently aware, we're far along in our budget process. And so I'm looking for some direction as we continue to work through budgeting. You all are aware that we will be setting up a new solid waste fund as we go into the next fiscal year that will require the city will have to pay our solid waste contractor through the city. So with setting up of that fund, I'm looking for some direction from you all on where you want to go with the franchise fee. The franchise fee will be dependent on how much money we have to budget from the general fund to go into the solid waste fund to cover what is anticipated to be a deficit once we look at the numbers based off of what we are going to be charged for the service, and then looking at what the anticipated tax collector collection rate is on an annual basis, taking into account a discount for early tax payments, and then a 2% fee by the tax collector. So I'm looking for some direction on that. The information in your packet does set out how it would lay out based on a franchise fee of 6%. And as you can see, it's currently showing an ending fund balance of negative $53,073, which means that would be the amount that we would put into our budget to be a transfer from general fund into the solid waste fund to cover that. So I'm just looking for direction on where you all want to go with the franchise fee and what percentage.
Council?
Yeah, Mr. Benton, if it stays at 3%, that number goes up, you have to pull about 93,000 out to put into, from the general fund to put into that account, if it stays at 3%.
So if it stays at 3%, we would have to add an additional approximately $90,000, a little over $90,000 additional to that $53,000 for a total number in the range of $145,000 or $143,000, I believe is what it's showing.
Right, and if it goes to 6%, the cost passed on to us, the residents of Sebastian, that would be about a 60 cents increase over what we currently have?
Well, so let me just clarify that. 60-cent increase over what you currently pay. So current rate, and I'm just going to go through, if you're okay, I'm going to go through what the current rate is and then what potential future anticipated rate will be, if that's okay. So your current rate is $19.45 per household per month with a 3% franchise fee of 58 cents. So your total bill is currently $20.03 per month. Looking at what is anticipated as we go forward on this contract with a rate adjustment on October 1st of 2024 based off of our contract agreement with the solid waste contractor, it's a CPI increase up to 3%. For the purposes of this exercise, if you want to call it that, I assumed a 3% increase in this. So if you take $19.45, the current rate, add 3%, it comes out to $20.03 as a base rate starting October 1st. A 3% franchise fee would add 60 cents to that for $20.63, or a 6% increase, or a 6% franchise fee would add $1.20 per month to that rate for a total of $21.23. So the difference between a 3% franchise fee and a 6% franchise fee per household is 60 cents per month.
Okay, well, this just seems like what I call a Kobayashi Maru, which is a no-win situation for us based on the current contract. So the money is going to have to come from somewhere. Either we put it into the waste management bill, or it goes on the ad valorem taxes. Is that correct?
Yes, correct. We would have to fund any deficit in this fund out of our general fund. That is correct.
That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, we can't fund the deficits out of discretionary sales tax?
I will check on that, but my understanding in previous discussions with the finance department is no.
No. Okay. Anyone else in the council have something? Okay, so this is a dead silence up here, which is not necessarily usual.
Not normal.
So Mr.
Processing.
Mr.
But
Mayor?
I will say-
Yeah, I will if you want me to.
Oh, okay.
I'll move forward.
I didn't hear you speak up.
No,
I'm sorry.
I'll move forward if we want, if that's what we need to do. I think, you know, once again, like Councilmember Jones just said, it's either the left pocket or the right pocket.
Yep.
The difference is, and there is a difference, the difference is if we assign it to the franchise fee to the waste management bill, everybody is paying the same amount of that 6% to the bill. If we assign it to the tax bill, it depends on how much in taxes people are paying and how much of that money they're going to end up paying at the end of the year. So I think in my mind, I would rather leave it attached to the waste management bill as a 6% franchise fee and move forward. So
But we're still, and this is a thing on my mind, we're still looking at a $53,073 deficit, even at a 6% franchise fee.
I don't know that we can fix that, though. We
Well,
can't go higher than 6%.
I'd like to have a conversation about whether there is a fix to that.
I know. I mean, we're still playing catch up here in the city with projects that have been put to the wayside after years and years of rollbacks, and now we're at another big chunk deficit to our budget.
I mean, it's not that I have an issue with paying $53,000 out of general fund to make up this loss, but that's going to go to $164,000 in 26, 27. It's going to go to $281,000 in 26 and 29, or 28 and 29. That's not a good feeling.
Mr. Mayor, if I can just correct that. That is assuming the 53,000 rolls over as a deficit.
Okay.
We would clear it out after year one. So in essence, year 2 is a $54,000 deficit.
Okay, all right.
You understand? So it was just accumulating on the bottom with
Okay,
that
all
all the
right,
way across.
Thank you.
that makes this a
So a
lot less
six-year
confusing.
total. Okay, so a
Correct.
6-year total is
That would be the
343.
total, but it would be cleared out annually.
Okay, thank you, because that was
That
worrying
was
me.
Thank
scary.
you for that. Thank you for that. Okay.
But still, it's still $54,000.
Right.
Right, so if it's cleared out, it still has to come from somewhere in the budget to clear that out. So are we going to be losing services as a result of that in one part of the budget or the other?
Can we not pay this out of reserves?
If that's the direction of you all, we can take it out of reserves. But that would be a discussion, obviously, we can have when we get to budget time. I think if you want to make that decision now, we can, but I think we can make the decision of exactly where it comes out of once we get into our budget workshops and see how it's kind of everything's laying out.
I just don't want this 53. I mean, if we decide tonight to go with a 6% and we don't take some further action, this $53,000 is going to roll into the budget. It's going to roll to the bottom line of the general fund, and we've just got to make sure. I mean, I would not be in favor of pulling $53,000 out of the 2024-25 general fund if we can just pay it out of reserves and get it done, pull it in. I mean, I would be much more in favor of that. We've got almost $8 million in our reserve account right now. So we have enough money in reserve to pull $53,000 out and clean up the budget process. So now I don't know whether we want to try to do that tonight or whether we want to do it at budget time, as long as we remember to do it at budget time.
I think the most important thing that has to be decided tonight, tell me if I'm wrong, is do we stay at 6% or go less? I think everything I've just heard from everybody that has spoken so far is going less is not an option because that number gets bigger.
That's right.
So 6% is really the only option for the core part of this discussion.
Yeah, it's a matter of,
The budget, we still have to decide.
Okay. Council, what's your pleasure?
Here's the other flip side of this, is if you go with the 6% franchise fee, it's going to all the people getting the garbage picked up now. If we go 3% and then it goes on taxes, I'm thinking about the elderly people on a fixed income. That means they're homesteaded. That means their taxes can only go up to 3%. They're not going to feel that big a pinch on this money here if we keep it at the 3%. You know, it'll be, of course, it's coming from another place, but the little guy's not hurt as much. Unless, of course, if they're renting, because then the owner of the house is just going to pass it down to them.
Okay, now this is going on the tax bill, but it's not part of the ad valorem component of the tax bill. It's a separate item in the tax bill.
Separate?
Yeah. It's like the stormwater fee. It's a separate item in the tax bill.
I slightly disagree in what Mr. McPartlin is saying. I do agree with, if we do go 3%, this $53,000 gets higher, and that is coming from ad valorem taxes or somewhere else that we
Well,
designate.
yeah.
So that's the point he's making is, if that becomes, I'm going to just say $106,000 a year, then that money comes from ad valorem taxes, and it will affect the people that pay more taxes, and the people that pay less taxes will not be affected as much, which I think is what Mr. McPartlin is saying.
All right, council. With all the silence up here, then I guess what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a motion that we increase as of 10/1/24 the franchise fee to 6%.
Yep, I second that.
Any comments? It's bad being in this chair. We could talk about this for the next 2 hours, but we got to do it.
That's
So,
right.
all right, we have a motion on the floor. Anyone from the floor like to address this?
We've
The
had 2
public.
years of this issue
Yep.
at this point.
Good evening.
Hello.
Grace Reed, Sebastian. I think everybody knows from the last waste management discussions how I feel about franchise fees to start with, but there was something else I heard in here tonight that really got me. The CPI increase. I realize that they can get ask for up to 3% a year based on the CPI index, but it's at the discretion of this council whether or not they get it.
It's in the contract.
That it's absolute.
No,
It's at their discretion.
I thought that was our discretion.
No, it's
The
at their
percentage.
discretion.
The CPI increase is at their, I mean, they submit the
choose that.
request. to the
We don't
city.
have any authority to change that.
And we can approve or disapprove that?
No.
No.
I thought that was what I
Well,
understood. Okay. Wow,
The issue
that's-
is, they've already increased. And it's turning out to be well above what they succumbed to Indian River County. So I don't see how the members of this council can let them do that to this city.
Let me address that just to make sure, and I'm not going to count on any of your time or anything like that, but when we put this out for bid last year, we only got one response, and that was Waste Management. Okay. When the county put that out for bid, they got 5 responses, which I agree with that. Don't ask me why all those people, because I do know that one of the respondents, FCC, is a Spanish company that is larger than Waste Management in Europe, is trying to move into the United States. So they responded to that bid
Correct.
proposal. 2 of the other carriers that responded were people who have been fired by cities all over Florida for non-performance. So in reality, they only got responses from 2 companies that have a performance record. That's FCC and Waste Management, and it turned out that they boiled to the top of that. I question, quite frankly, if you want to know the truth, I question the validity of the process they followed, because what they did is after the RFP responses came in and everyone got to see every RFP response, they then asked them to give a best and final price. So it's like me going, and it's perfectly legal for me to go to Dillard's and look at the price of a shirt and go to Macy's and look at the price of the same shirt and buy it at Macy's because it's $1 cheaper. That's legal. But in an RFP process, where's the legality break between the secret and protected nature of responding to an RFP and that effort that took place? Okay, so I don't, I'm not a lawyer, and I'm not going to challenge these people into a court, but they were allowed to see the respondents' responses from each of the RFP responders, and then come back with a second dollar offer. Waste Management just happened to play the game better. They happened to play the game better.
Well, they have
and I will
enough
tell you right
access from
now
us
that
to-
there is absolutely no way in the world that I would have thought that they would have come back with numbers that low. I mean, it absolutely blows my mind. They only had like a 30-cent difference between universal and subscription on a monthly basis. I know there's a major cost beyond those 2 things. They're not the same. They're just absolutely not the same. So I don't think that we can compare Indian River County, their response, to what we got. I just don't think we can. I think it's a mistake to do that. I will tell you that we have the right, 10/1/25, to piggyback on that contract.
That was my next,
Okay, we have the
Comment.
right, 10/1/25, to piggyback on that contract.
yeah, that was my next
And
comment.
so everybody out here can recognize the fact that the city's we're not laying down on our laurels here. Nobody up here is laying down on their laurels on this. We're not gonna, you can't talk about things in public and try to get things done, okay? We will have the right 10/1/25. The worst case for the city of Sebastian is we will have the right 10/1/25 to do that, to piggyback that contract. And the rates are going to drop down to what the county's rates are if we do that, at that point in time when we do that. And so we're talking about what we do between now and 10/1/25, or what we do between now and a closer date that may be that something may happen on. We have to budget based on, I mean, you're very familiar with that process. We have to budget based on the data that's in front of us. And the data that's in front of us is what Brian has on this piece of paper. So here in September, unless we have something that we know that's different than what we currently know, we're going to have to come up with all this cash plus $53,000 worth of money that we're not collecting from anybody in that process. So, I mean, we have to come up with that. Well, the honest goodness truth, I shouldn't say this, but I agree with you 100%. I don't think we should have franchise fees. The city, I don't believe necessarily that the city should make money on a contract to do services for the citizens. That's a tax.
Exactly, because I think franchise fees should be paid by the franchisor to the city.
That's a tax. So we should
apparently
just say
that's
we're taxing you. We're going to tax you 6% on this. That's fine. That's what we're doing with the franchise fee, is we're taxing you 6%. We're not doing it through ad valorem taxes. We're doing it through another taxing mechanism, which is called franchise fees. So I don't know that we have a choice but do this right now, but.
Right. Well, I knew that the franchise fees were going to be something just based off of the budgetary processes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I really thought that it was at the discretion of the city council on the CPI increase.
No.
So.
And in the county's contract, they have the right to do the same thing at no discretion
Right.
of the county commission.
Because it's unfair of them as a company to even ask for it after they've gotten increase after increase. So.
I would tell you people, have some faith that we're not, going into a closet after every meeting at 10 o'clock and not emerging until 6 o'clock at the next meeting time,
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor, while the gentleman's coming up, I just want to clarify, the contract states that we shall provide the CPI up to 3% on October 1st.
Yes.
So it is not to the discretion of the council. Just want to clarify.
Okay.
Boy, I'm sitting here and listening to what's going on, and I'm amazed. I'm amazed that you people could just sit there and talk about money that people have to pay. What did the town of Sebastian do for 199 years with their garbage? What did they do? They took care of it. Up until last year, we had no problem, and all of a sudden now we have a big damn problem. Why did we get involved with all this here? Why didn't we just leave it the way it was? Why is it now everybody's forced, and you're saying now we have a contract with this franchise fees? I don't remember anything about that. And what does that actually mean, a franchise fees? That means that they can raise the price up anytime they want for as much as they want? Is that what's, I mean, you people, I was in real estate. I used to negotiate deals for millions of dollars, okay? And I'll tell you what, you people are not negotiators. You're not doing your jobs. If you people would have done your jobs, you would have made sure you had more than one respondent. They would have checked out with other people, so you people didn't do your job. I'm sorry, you lay down on your job. And there was so many other options, I'm sure they could have got in touch with Vero Beach. Vero Beach was doing their own pickup, okay? And they were paying a lot less doing their own. And they had control of everything. Now what you've done, you've given control of our garbage to some carting company that's an international world corporation that has attorneys up the gazoo to come in here and browbeat you people. And you forced our people in Sebastian now into a contract that they can do whatever they want, raise whatever they want, and you people just say, well, we're just going to have to increase it again. I mean, what the hell's going on here? I don't know what the hell to say anymore. It's almost like I'm almost sorry now that I moved to Sebastian because the council is not doing their job, okay? You guys have to get on the ball and start doing your job. And we have, supposedly there's a date that we could get out of that contract. Are we past that time? Are we past the time that there was a walkout clause? I forgot how many days it was. And now, like I said, I'm getting bills from Waste Management. It's a private corporation. My town never notified me of anything, about anything that was going on. And now I'm sitting here and you people are going to raise, I mean, you just negotiated this contract. Now you're saying you're going to raise the fees 6% again? What the hell is going on? I mean, what did you do to us? What did you do to the people of Sebastian? I'm just disgusted.
All right.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to clarify something. I want to clarify something, if I may.
Okay.
First of all, the city of Sebastian got 3 responses from 3 different garbage companies. Only one of those garbage companies finished the process and submitted a bid. We couldn't force people, we can't force, it's not legal for us to go out and ask people to come and bid for garbage. It's not, I'm sorry, sir, you must sit down. Sit down.
Brian, wait.
Thank you.
I'm going to run a meeting. Let me take care
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay.
Okay.
All
Sure.
right. Now, you may talk.
Okay. Thank you, sir. So we can't force companies to come bid on garbage. We can't do that. We can't go ask companies to come bid on garbage. We can't go ask another city to come run our garbage. None of that, we can't do any of those things. What we can do is put an RFP out. We can get bids, which is what we did. We got 3 submittals. And then at the end of the day, only one of those companies, Waste Management, was the final bidder. The others decided not to do it for various different reasons. The 6%, we're currently at 3% now. The 6% is doubling that cost. It is also in the contract. The CPI is also in the contract. There's nothing unexpected. We're not suddenly raising rates. We're not suddenly changing the deal. It's all in the contract. It's all been in the contract since we started this. Let's be honest, we hope we wouldn't have to do any of it, but the money has to come from somewhere to pay the bills at the end of the day. That's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Who you guys waving to? Somebody at the door. I'm sorry?
Oops.
Okay. All right. Okay, I'm sorry that the gentleman felt that way because we went through this process and quite frankly, we recalled the original contract that was set up because it was going to cost us a lot more money, and we forced Waste Management to come to the table with a lot of concessions. A lot of people don't realize that.
And he was at every single meeting we had.
Well, I know, all I'm saying is that we did force Waste Management to come to the table with a lot of concessions. We've talked about this in more times than we probably need to, so I'm going to call the question. Let's have a roll call vote, please.
Mayor Dodd?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Dixon?
Yes.
Councilmember Jones?
No.
Councilmember McPartlin?
No.
And Councilmember Nunn?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. New business item B.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I know Jessica, our procurement manager, is coming up. I'll get this started while she's approaching the table. So what we're asking for your review today on this item is we have a resolution, R24-29, requesting your approval for us to piggyback the school board of Brevard County for general contractor services of minor projects under $300,000 with 4 of their awarded contractors. So that's number 1 on this agenda item. And then the second portion of this is to further authorize issuance of a purchase order to Doug Wilson Enterprises Incorporated for the Community Development Office remodel project in the amount of $107,377.
Okay, can I get the attorney to read the resolution heading, please?
Yes, sir. Resolution number R-2429, a resolution of the City of Sebastian, Florida, approving a piggyback contract with 8 KOI Inc., Doug Wilson Enterprises Inc., Hurd Construction Inc., and Ovation Construction Company LLC for general contractor services for minor projects under $300,000 and in substantial conformity with the agreement attached hereto and made a part hereof as Exhibit A, adoption of recitals, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, Brian, it seems to me we've got 2 items on here. One is to approve the piggyback, and one is then to approve the first project under that piggyback.
Correct. Yes, sir.
Should we not do that as 2, and this may be an item for the attorney, should we not do that as 2 issues? The resolution would approve the use of the piggyback, and then we can have a vote on the project under that?
Yeah, it's fine because we need to enter into that piggyback to have those continuing services agreements, and then you're able to authorize the first purchase order under that.
Okay, is that all right?
Yeah.
You guys see
Yeah, it's
that?
2
Okay,
separate
so-
votes. Sorry.
All right, so council, what's your pleasure? What are your comments?
I would first like to ask the Community Development Director a question. I don't have a problem with this overall. I just have a couple questions.
Good evening.
Hey, how are you?
Good, how are you?
So I'm doing great. So the additional $18,877 is going to come out of part of your budget. How would that affect your budget going forward by having to pull that 18? plus out?
So right now, we currently have one vacant position in our department. So it is salary funds that aren't currently being used. And so once we have this, these security measures in place and this kind of reconfiguration, we'll have the availability to put the new person. And so we should not see any difference as far as funding because it's already programmed there.
Very good. That's my question. Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone from the public like to address this? We're talking first about, well, I guess we can address both of them at the same time. So anyone from the public want to address this? Seeing none. Okay. Council?
Mr. Mayor? Oh, go ahead.
I move approval for Resolution R-24-29.
Second.
Nope.
Oh, you were going to do it.
I was going to do it.
Okay.
Yep, no,
Okay.
we're good.
We have a motion for approval of the resolution, and any comments from the staff, from the public? I mean, excuse me, from the council?
This doesn't preclude any local businesses from then bidding on a project? Look,
Excuse me, it does not, because my plan is to issue another invitation to bid that will be for general contracting services. And because we have a local preference, part of it will be to actually square away a certain percentage threshold where local contractors will have a preference and be able to bid on it. So let's say if we have a threshold where it's $20,000, we'll make it so that only local companies, based on our local preference laws, can bid for that part. And then we go to them for projects over that. And then when there's another amount, we can go out to vendors that are anywhere in the state or anywhere in the country, actually.
Any other comments? All right, let's have a roll call vote on the resolution, please.
Vice Mayor Dixon?
Yes.
Councilmember Jones?
Yes.
Councilmember McPartlin?
yes,
Councilmember Nunn?
Yes.
And Mayor Dodd?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, now the initial project cost for the growth management department is $120,000, correct, Brian?
So the budgeted amount for this project was $88,500. The approval we're seeking tonight is in the amount of $107,377.
Okay, all right. All right, then I'll make a motion that we approve the project for the reconfiguration of growth management offices.
Second.
The amount of $107,377.
I'll second that.
Any comments on that?
No.
No, sounds like it needs to be done.
Any comments from the public on that? All right, seeing none, let's have a roll call, please.
Councilmember Jones?
Yes.
Councilmember McPartlin?
yes,
Councilmember Nunn?
Yes.
Mayor Dodd?
Yes.
And Vice Mayor Dixon?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, council, we're on to the packet that Mr. Benton passed out to you at the beginning of the meeting, which is the Value Blue Solutions Agreement.
I think we got a couple before that. We've got C and D.
Oh, I'm sorry.
trying to get us out of here.
I like this packet here. I wanted to get to it real quick.
Yeah.
Okay.
Almost
Let's talk
there.
about the selection of power exterminators. Mr. Benton.
I'm going
thank
to
you,
let
Mr.
Jessica handle this one.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is an agenda item to select a new contractor for citywide pest control services. Our current contract will expire on June 30th. So we put out a solicitation to get new vendors. We did that back in March. Unfortunately, we had an issue where none of the vendors that submitted a bid were authorized to sign the bid that they submitted. So I had to reject them all, and we've issued a new bid, and we are putting forth Power X. This is a new company that we have not worked with. However, they are currently providing services to the city of Palm Bay as well as as well as Brevard County. We did reach out and check their references, and they have no issues. So we would like to move forward with Power X as they are the lowest responsible bidder.
Council.
Move approval.
Any questions?
Move approval.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Does anyone from the audience like to address this? Seeing none. And no further comments? Let's have a roll call, please.
Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes,
Councilmember Nunn?
Yes.
Mayor Dodd?
Yes.
And Vice Mayor Dixon?
Yes.
And Councilmember Jones?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Item D, discussion regarding special event ordinance, Section 74, and for-profit special events. Mr. Benton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I know Richard, our Parks and Recreation Director, is coming up as well. This was a request from City Council to bring this item back for discussion in regards to our ordinance, Section 74, in regards to special events taking place at Riverview Park. So in your packet on the transmittal, you have a list of what was approved and permitted for special events in 2023-2024 timeframe. Most of these are city-sponsored or city-operated events. Every one of them is involving a not-for-profit or city-sponsored or city-operated, with the exception of one entity that utilized the park within this timeframe. So what we're looking at this point is whether you all would like us to continue to have for-profit events at the park. If we are going to have those, would you like us to consider fee adjustments or anything of that nature? So we're kind of looking for some direction before we go and amend this ordinance and bring it back to you all.
Okay, Council, before we open this up, let me see if there's anyone in the public who wants to address this item. Ma'am, come forward.
I'm Louise Cottenberg, and I live in the city of Sebastian and have for the past 28 years. I just want to register, and I'm sure you all remember, that I am opposed to allowing an individual business to operate their business out of our park. And the last time I brought this up, I apparently didn't express exactly what it was I was opposed to. I'm not opposed to anybody selling things in the park. Those organizations that have been doing that, mostly charitable organizations that contribute greatly to the benefit of the Sebastian citizenry in general. What I am opposed to is allowing a person whose sole business is to sell spaces. This person is a promoter getting to use our park for a minimal fee. This person doesn't have any real estate in Sebastian, doesn't pay any taxes here, has no loyalty to the city. This is just a place to do business, as any promoter does anywhere. And being a promoter is a legitimate business. I just don't think that our park should be used for those purposes. Thank you.
Is anyone else from the public like to address this? Seeing none. Council, questions for the staff?
I would like to, Mr. Mayor, if I could. I want to make it clear that we're not against people at an event selling things. My personal problem is a organization renting the entire park and then them making money, where right now we have our nonprofits rent the park. The general consensus of the event is to benefit our community. Yes, there are people there selling things, but they are also giving baskets to the special event, to the event to make money for the cause. They're doing their best to participate for the cause. I'm not against any one person specifically. I just don't think commercially sponsored events should be held there. I think we should maintain our park for our community-sponsored events, which are things like our festivals and our art clubs and things that actually benefit, that are from Sebastian. And that's why I am for the change that we're talking about.
Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor, I would like to go ahead and make a motion that that we only allow city-sponsored events or nonprofits to have events at the park.
I'll second that, but I will ask the question, does that meet what you need to know from us?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
I was asking, so does that meet the requirements of what they need to know from us moving forward? Enough.
So I don't want to make a final determination tonight. I want you all to give us a consensus of what you want us to look into, so that we can look, that Jennifer and I can look into the entirety of not allowing for-profit events, to make sure that everything aligns.
Well, let's kind of drop down to this list. There's only one on this list that doesn't fit the priority, the the criteria that you had in your motion. That's just Barb's no.
Right.
That's
Well,
basically it.
just in the future, what I'm saying is no for-profits, only nonprofits
Yeah.
or city-sponsored.
Understand.
And
Right.
yes.
City operated.
So, in.
It's only one person, yes.
That's the only one on this list that is not, and I had this thing when I was thinking through this and working through this process about city-sponsored. There's got to be another category, because city-sponsored means something it's a connotation to the event. I mean, it basically means the city has they have skin in the game. They provide everything on that, like the clam bake. City sponsors it. City sponsors these things.
Correct.
The art club, for example, the city doesn't sponsor the art club.
They're a nonprofit.
No, okay, but the city doesn't sponsor the art club.
Correct.
Okay.
They are a nonprofit, and the craft club is a nonprofit.
The art club doesn't necessarily provide anything back to the city as a result of their events. We don't get a kickback on the money that they make. We don't get anything from the art club. So they fall in a different category than city-sponsored, okay? So all Barb Snow would have to do is convert her company to a nonprofit. And then she would qualify to hold her events in the park. So let's realize that people aren't dumb. And the minute we say we're going to allow any nonprofit to use the facility, all I'm going to do is create a nonprofit. My nonprofit's going to be called something like Joe Blow Blow Blow, and I'm going to do like a lot of these online charities do. I'm going to give $10 of the first $14,000 I make to veterans of foreign wars. Now I'm nonprofit, and
So-
I'm a charity-based 501(c). They don't have a requirement in the federal government in that classification how much money I give away. They don't say you can't have this unless you do that. All they say is you got a letter from a legitimate organization, Veterans of Foreign Wars, that you give money to. They don't say how much you have to give, what percentage or anything like that. So if we're going to fix this, I think we need to fix it some way so that we basically say that if you're not, and I don't know how to deal with the art clubs and the craft clubs. They're very special to the city. They do a lot of things in the city.
Would
Their
they be
residents.
classified under a city organization or?
Yeah, I mean, that's something that Brian and Jennifer can come up with. But to me, if the city doesn't have a skin in the game, which means that the city's not willing to sponsor the event, then it probably shouldn't be in the park. Okay? Now, when I say sponsor, I don't mean that we give money to them or anything like that, but I mean that, we understand that we're involved in it some way or another. And I'm not sure how that can be classified. Maybe there's two levels of city sponsorship. And not, there's one where the city, it's a primary event that the city has a responsibility to maintain, to fund, to do what they've got to do to make it work. Another one is that it's the city's giving their blessing to the event. I don't know how you say that. City blessed, city sponsored maybe. I don't know how you do that. But some way or another, you need to differentiate this without saying nonprofit.
So Mr. Blankenship and I have talked about how he's wanting to bring more like cultural arts to Sebastian within the Parks and Rec. So what if we classified the arts and the crafts as cultural events for Sebastian, perhaps, and that could fall
Maybe.
under a category of that.
Maybe Parks and Rec is the common denominator. Maybe if it's a Parks and Rec committee sponsored event in the park. That way, your cultural event, the art club, the craft club, they go to the Parks and Rec committee and they say, we want to hold this in the facility in the park, and the Parks and Rec approves it. Now it's a Parks and Rec sponsored event, and it's not the same as a city sponsored event. To do this is something that can be worked out, but I do believe that people aren't dumb. I mean, I see evidence every day of exactly how people will finagle the system to get what they want. And the minute you figure that if you just create a 501(c) and some bogus contribution to a charity, and that'll give you access to this park for almost no money.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, don't we have the final decision whether somebody goes in the park or not?
We do.
We don't have to allow somebody into the park.
Yeah, well, but we have to have a reasonable justification to turn someone down. If we don't have a reasonable justification to turn them down, then we can be sued.
Mr. Mayor, I think the attorney has something.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you. You just have to be careful that you're not discriminating based on content or things of that nature. When you start getting into profit versus nonprofit and commercial activities, we have to be careful that we're not getting into areas of constitutional concern relating to interstate commerce or free speech and things of that nature. And Brian and I can look at this depending on what y'all decide. I just wanted to make you aware of those things.
So making the decision that we only want certain types of events in our park, that would be a violation of the law somehow?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying we would have to look at it because there are some concerns and there are some opinions out there on it. Potentially, yes.
It could be, Fred, it's like the First Amendment, it's a very sticky wicket.
Right.
Well, yeah, but
Believe it or
how
not,
did
yes.
we ever get to this point in the first place? So see, we're here now, and we got here because of something happened, right?
Italian festival.
Right.
So I would be in favor, if you can't come up with a way to differentiate it that will legally work and will not catch us in a boondoggle of some type or another, that I would be in favor of creating an extremely high fee for those types of activities. And if, by golly, if they want to pay $10,000 to use that park, then let them do it.
That's
you
right.
know? I mean, you make the fee for non-sponsored events high enough that if someone's willing to pay for it, then we might just take their money and let them do it.
Or we can
Absolutely.
reduce it down instead of 6 months, because apparently there's 6 months there for things that's in the park there for profit there. Can we reduce the amount of months, say it's 2 months or 3 months, and raise the fee?
I think that
Which
6
would
months
still
was,
fall the same way we have it now, which shouldn't put us in any jeopardy, is that
I think
correct?
that 6 months was pulled out of the Land Development Code because that was put on a special event schedule because of the Catholic Church running big sales
Right.
every month. And I think there was a modification in the Land Development Code to make that 6 times a year that they could do that based on that. So that was also part of a response to some event that was causing consternation for people through the 6-month thing. So, you know, I trust that Brian and the attorney can come up with something we can legally defend, and if they really don't think they can, then put a big enough dollar amount on it that nobody will want to do it.
So in light of that, I withdraw a motion.
Thank you.
I withdraw my second.
And then we would table this for another meeting?
So do you have another?
Is that all right, Brian?
I have a consensus on where you all are looking to go, and we can go from there.
Okay, thank you. All right, now we're on to my favorite subject, Blue Value Solutions.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So what was presented to you all on the dais tonight and to be walked onto the agenda is the city, we had established a benefits committee back sometime late 2023 and going into 2024 that includes employees from different departments across the city in an effort to be more transparent in our benefits process and how things are decided with which vendors we go with and how employees feel about our current benefits. And that is, Cindy is here, Human Resources Director, and Cindy's involved with that committee. And so based on that, we have had our benefits committee has been involved in our discussions with the Garing Group and Florida Blue as we are preparing for this year's budget and going into our renewal period of benefits. And with that, within that discussion, we had received information in regards to our actuarial costs that affect our renewal rates of health insurance. And in discussions with Garing Group and Florida Blue has decided to come to the city and provide us with an opportunity to join their Blue Value Solutions program. This program and all these details have been presented to myself, Cindy, and the entire Benefits Committee. The Benefits Committee unanimously, from those that were in attendance at the meeting, they made a recommendation for us to go with the Blue Value Solutions agreement. This agreement will be for 3 years. It's going to be a little bit of a new dynamic for the city. Our renewal rates, after this first year, renewal rates will be dependent upon 3 metrics that our employees have to kind of accomplish. Those metrics would be a PHA and biometric screening is one of them, adult wellness exam is the second one, and a care pathway completion is the third metric. These metrics would be measured based off of everyone who is on our plan, employee plus dependents over the age of 18. For each one of those metrics, we have a goal, and there's a minimum goal, a target goal, and a maximum goal. Based on those, we get points, program points, which then in turn will depend on our renewal rates as we get to fiscal year 26, which would be in 2025. The initial renewal rate is 12%. Florida Blue is also going to provide the city with a $10,000 wellness benefit that can be used to improve wellness amongst our employees. It has to be used wellness related. So our benefits committee will be looking into the options of how we can utilize that if this is approved. But this was an agreement that was brought to us last Wednesday after the agenda had been finalized and generated. Likewise, I did not want to bring this to council for your consideration until we had discussed it and had a recommendation or not a recommendation from our benefits committee, because I think it's important to have the input from our employees. And so that's why it's being presented to you all, walked on the agenda today. And just know I have spoken to Florida Blue, and Cindy's spoken to Florida Blue, and they are available via Zoom if you all have any specific questions about the program.
Questions? How about anyone from the audience have a question? Comment? Seeing none. Okay. Now, anyone in the council?
I mean, I think it's a really good program. It's kind of like a wellness program. And if you have a well workforce, you get a cheaper insurance rate. You know, my only concern is if we don't get the level of compliance to go forward, but it still seems if we're on the low end on compliance, we still have a lower percentage being raised. I mean, ever since I sat up here, insurance, I've always expected to see 30% increase, you know, year to year sometimes. We've always been in kind of the low end. And you know, even recently, some of the other boards, I mean, Gehring Group does a fantastic job of trying to, because I sit on several boards that utilize Gehring Group, and they go out and it seems every year we're all in about the same line of percentage increase. But this creates, again, I think since Brian's been on for a year, I think, you know, the city is doing well, and I think there's a lot of good morale, and I think this could be a morale builder as well. It could be like a challenge within the city if they want to lose 2 tons, you know, weight loss, or step program, how many steps they're doing a day, and it could be competition between departments. So I think in the long run, I think it's a good program.
I like the buy-in element to it.
I was going to say, I totally am sold on this. I think that giving the employees an opportunity to save themselves money on insurance down the road is I think, a benefit. And all you're really asking them to do is get screened, maybe get an exam, and if you're going for a treatment, follow through. Nothing that they shouldn't hopefully be doing already. That's what they have insurance for. So I think the ability to, I mean, even worst case scenario, you know, they still come out with a better percentage than they could. So hopefully they do what they need to do and get checked out, because, yeah, we want them healthy. Healthy employees are better employees. They're here more often.
The biometric screening, if you do an adult wellness exam and the doctor who does that pulls blood, you're going to get both the biometric screening from that, and you're going to get the wellness exam out of that, because the biometric screening basically, as they check, you know, all your cholesterols and all your particular levels. I would like to recommend that the employee committee consider the possibility of using the $10,000 to see if we can't find a local organization like TCCH that will do the adult wellness exam and biometric screening for the employees. And let's try to use those funds to pay for that for the employees, so they're not having to do that out of their, because most of the carrier is not going to pay for those screenings, and the employees are going to have to use their benefit card to pay for that. So it means that it's being done for the employees without them having to use their benefit card to pay for that.
So I will state that we, in our discussions with Florida Blue, they have committed to providing the city with resources for the biometric screening at our health fair and at other times throughout the year, free of charge to the employees. So that the biometric screening will be available to employees. It's free of charge. Your annual physical is supposed to be free, and that's something we're working on with Florida Blue. I know Cindy has a few ideas on how we're going to be able to do that as well. So I understand what you're saying with TCCH, and that's something that we're going to be looking into. I just would hesitate to allocate that full 10,000 to that. I think it's something that we'll consider, and if it's something that we can utilize those funds for, we absolutely will, to get further buy-in from our employees on this.
If you don't schedule appointments for the employees to go to the wellness exam, you're probably going to get a third of them that are just not going to do it, period. They're not going to do it on their own. You know, and I don't know what kind of peer pressure you put on somebody who doesn't really care about that kind of stuff. So there are some things that maybe can be done with that through TCCH or some of the other organizations to get that done. I don't see any reason, quite frankly, in a city the size of Sebastian with a staff the size of ours, that we don't hit 75% in all three of these. It just would blow my mind that we can't get 75% in all three of these. And if we don't get it, that means that we're not pushing it hard enough with the staff. We're not really explaining it to them well enough and pushing it hard enough with them. So, you know, it's an important thing to do that with them. So, but I'm completely in favor of it. I'll make a motion that we approve this agreement. Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, I just need approval for the agreement and authorization to execute it.
Second.
Any questions from the council on that? Let's have a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Nunn?
Yes.
Mayor Dodd?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Dixon?
Yes.
Councilmember Jones?
Yes.
And Councilmember McPartland?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, let's talk about city attorney matters.
Okay, let's do it. I have one, maybe two items tonight. So I have flooded your emails over the past day or so with good news. The federal court did issue an order down in South Florida granting a statewide injunction, which is good news for our local municipal officials, so that they will only be required to fill out Form 1 rather than Form 6, which was enacted last legislative session. And so we have a statewide temporary injunction in place. So now by July 1st, you will be able to fill out Form 1 rather than Form 6, which is a lot more onerous. And we await further litigation or appeals potentially. But in the meantime, we do have a short-term positive outcome. And there was a 33-page order issued by the judge, which leaned heavily in favor of the local cities. So we were glad to see that come through. So I think the council made a wise decision in joining that, and it's been interesting to see all the other city attorneys who didn't have cities participate contacting me about it now, and you know, and the benefits that they're getting from it as well. So sometimes it's good to be a leader in these types of things.
Isn't it, this also can be kind of a message to our board members that they have to do the Form 1 and they have to do it online this year. So P&Z, Parks and Recs, all the boards that report to the council. So they need to know to do that. Right, Jeanette?
I'm sorry, what's the question, Mr. Mayor?
Well, I'm just saying that
The Form 1.
we have to do Form 1, not Form
It's
6, but
only
all
for
of our committee members
decision-making
have to also
committees,
do
I
Form 1
believe.
this year.
Some of the committees do have to do Form
The-
1. I've
the-
been monitoring who's turned them in, who hasn't. I've contacted them to keep them up to date for July 1st.
It's the decision-making ones, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, only the ones that are, right. Jeanette has the list and makes sure that that gets done. And then she hounds us until we do it as well.
So if we've already filed Form 6, do
If
we need
you've
to file
already-
Form 1 still?
No.
Okay.
And
If you've
they're not
already
going to
done Form
take it
6,
down.
you've done it.
Yeah.
I've done it.
And it's out there, and they're not going to take it down either.
Yeah.
But they have changed the website so you can do a Form 1 as an elected official.
Oh, cool. Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow, that was fast.
Yeah. So that's good news. Number two, can go about this different ways. So we have a couple of complex litigation or legal matters, not litigation, at least not yet. So what I'm asking is whether you want to do consensus or you want me to bring back an item for you on the next agenda, and seeking council's direction on getting outside counsel for those matters, and also as an interim backup counselor for me, as you have in the charter for Brian, when he's temporarily absent, or it says temporary absence or disability of the city manager, he has the ability to designate someone. I don't have anybody since Mr. Mai has left. and gone back in-house. Now, without letting the cat out of the bag, I do have some options that I can't tell you yet about that might be really favorable to the council and your decision-making on this. So a little bit of a secret. So if you want, we can handle it, either way. You can just give me the direction and then I'll bring it back to you. Or you can give me the direction to do it.
Is there a consensus that she bring that back to us?
Yes.
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 You have a consensus to bring that back to us?
All right, great. Thank
Now,
you.
also on the litigation or potential issues,
Yes.
can you present those to us as an agenda item without jeopardizing anything?
I can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then you'll present those
Yeah,
with
and,
us
and that's the reason to do it, right? So that we don't disclose those matters to the public and be able to get counsel to handle those without having a public discussion prior to it being a litigation public, what's that?
You're not talking about a shade meeting, right? You're talking about bringing that up in our council meetings.
You're at mic, did you mean for your mic?
I was just clarifying, do you want to bring those matters up before the public or in a shade meeting?
No, you can't do a shade meeting unless it's in litigation.
Okay.
So I just want to refer to it as generally complex matters.
Okay.
And then also the interim backup. Or that could be one person, you never know.
Okay, so you're talking about one particular item, which is, I'm going to give you a presentation for a general backup, and that backup may work on some complex legal matters.
That may be the case.
Okay, all right, that's fine. I can follow that. Twisted logic fits right in here.
Good job.
All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. City Manager.
So well, I actually have two things, because I just remembered something from earlier before the meeting. So I just want to let the public know, I know we've talked a lot over the last couple of years about our road repaving project and where we are in regards to those fiscal years that are shown on our website. I just want to thank Karen, and now Lee's come on board, and he's been heavily involved with it, that our paving contractors should be in the city at some point next week to get started on fiscal year 22 and fiscal year 23 road repaving projects. Our contractors have completed the swell work, and the driveway culvert pipes that were needed to be replaced have been completed. So we're ready to go forward with our paving contractor to get started next week. And I think they're probably going to be in the city for about 2 months, if I remember correctly, based on our anticipated schedule. So don't expect all the roads to be repaved next week. It will be a process, but it is coming, and it's much needed in quite a few areas. So that's item number one. Number two, a couple meetings ago, you all had requested that I put together, based on my knowledge and my research, some items that would show you all a discussion point in regards to septic sewer within the city of Sebastian. As everyone is aware, utilities, including potable water and wastewater, are responsibility of the county, Indian River County. And so this discussion was basically requested in regards to what has happened within the city. So I'm not going to go through the whole discussion chronologically. I presented you all with a chronological discussion that began back in late in 2016. I'm sure it goes further back. I was spending time trying to research this and get as much knowledge as I could. But in 2016, presentations began. I will state that in 2017, Indian River County received a septic to sewer conversion evaluation that provided them a map that kind of phased in their top priority sites within the county. That was then implemented into their annual comprehensive plan, or their comprehensive plan 2030 at that point, with a top 35 priority sites at that point. Sebastian is listed numerous times on that top 30 with projects that to be converted over from septic to sewer, and that was based off of a lot of the impacts, negative impacts to the lagoon that our septic systems have. And so based on that information, went through the whole timeline. We had shared, we had also, City Council had developed a septic to sewer conversion plan for the CRA district, utilizing Joe Schulke, That was completed in 2022. I can state that I shared it with the county in 2023, the fall of 2023. And we have had discussions with the county recently, as recent as yesterday, in regards to completing the septic to sewer conversions for the county infrastructure within the CRA, hopefully within the near future. And so I had that discussion with them yesterday. However, I will state that I also provided you all a list of projects from that top 30 that the county has confirmed have either been completed or are currently in the works, as they say. And they're still working out the details on a few of those, and the rest of Sebastian is not included in those plans currently. So I know that the county has mentioned they're going back out for another utility evaluation master plan that will provide an updated priority scheduling. However, I believe, and I don't want to be quoted on this, but I think it's like 18 to 24 months to take that to get that plan in place. So at this point, I provided you all the information. I provided you the information that was from the 2017 plan with the priority projects, and I also included a map that was developed by our GIS technician that shows who is currently connected to sewer within the city of Sebastian. A large majority of those are either in the CRA district, which a good majority has the infrastructure, or is new developments that have been developed within the recent years, because as council directs that any developments that come into the city have to connect. So our council gives that direction. They're required to do that. So those are the ones that are connected. So I'm looking, if you all want to have a further discussion on this, any direction you want to give me going forward, we can go from there.
What was the gist of the conversation about the CRA? You said that they're, I mean, were they willing to give you, oh, this is 18 months out, we're going to have it done in 12 months, we're going to do this, we're going to do that?
So the discussion we had yesterday, originally our discussion 2 weeks ago was that they were going to go after some grant funding, which would have taken some time. Better news yesterday, I feel like, was that they are looking to do a lot of that infrastructure in-house, so they don't have to go outside. They're not going to go for grant funding. There was some mention from the county of looking at what they have ARPA funding to use to put that infrastructure in. There was also some discussion that the interlocal allows them to assess residents or businesses for that infrastructure that goes in. So that was all part of the discussion. I know that one thing that I sent to them today is that a couple of the sewer connections that need to be made, or sewer infrastructure improvements that need to be made, are on roads that we are repaving this summer in the CRA, Louisiana and Davis. So we sent those over to them today as our top 2 priority areas in the CRA to get on as quickly as possible. So we have also informed our paving contractor to hold off on those areas, because last thing we want to do is repave it, and then they come in and install sewer and they saw cut it and backfill it, and it just doesn't look as good and doesn't come out as well once you cut it. So I think that there's some movement within that CRA infrastructure to get going on that as pretty soon in those areas. And then we are also going to look at the rest of the CRA map, which you all have, and kind of develop what our next priorities would be within those areas, and see where we go from there with funding. So they're not, my understanding from yesterday was they're not going to be going for grant funding for the CRA portion. They're looking at ARPA funding, but they also are looking at the assessment realm with that as well.
So this is just me saying this, there's probably an 80 or 85% chance that they're going to bill the property owners in the CRA for their infrastructure work. They don't typically do things for nothing. You don't have to answer that. Okay, that's just me saying that. Okay, so council, I just want to kind of, and the reason I led into that, and I'm glad Brian made this presentation, but I just want us to have a I don't know, come to Jesus discussion. Basically, it's the responsibility of the Sebastian City Council to plan for the mitigation of the 8,500 plus or minus septic tanks within the city. Okay, it's our responsibility to make sure that takes place. We can't leave that up to a utility that has made no plans since 1994 when they agreed they had the obligation to do that. And that's when the interlocal took place. I think it was 94 when the interlocal took place. Maybe 96, I don't know for sure. But we've been trugging along for years. The interesting things that have happened to us is that last year, in 2023, House Bill 1379 was a direct signal to local governments that the state is not going to put up with messing around anymore on this. There's been a law at the state level for years that within 1 year of you having the infrastructure in front of your house, you have to connect to it, period. It's been a law. Nobody's ever enforced it. The state hasn't enforced it. We haven't enforced it. In 2022, I believe, the state moved the requirement or the move to DEP the opportunity and responsibility for inspecting septic tanks. And DEP is in the process, as it takes many years to get this kind of stuff done in government, they're in the process of setting up their rules on how they're going to do that. What DEP has is the ability to come in and inspect all 8,500 plus or minus septic tanks in Sebastian and condemn those that they feel need to be condemned. And if they're condemned by DEP, they have to be replaced within 1 year. The other thing that's taking place right now is that there are some conversations. The current House Bill 1379 established a July 1, 2030 drop dead date. It said shall connect by July 1, 2030. It established a drop dead date. Now, for us to get 8,000 plus septic tanks changed out between now and July 1, 2030 would take every plumber and septic vendor in the state of Florida for Sebastian probably. I don't know how many they can do in a week, maybe 10, maybe 5, I don't know. But they're certainly not going to do 8,000 in a short period of time. I'm pretty comfortable that we're going to be able to get an amendment to that made so that they turn that July 1, 2030 date into a planning date. You have to have a solid plan on how you're going to do this conversion by that date. That's what we're shooting for in conversations with members of the legislature. And I feel it's possible to get that changed. However, it still is our responsibility to make sure that for the city of Sebastian it's accomplished. It's not the county utility's responsibility to do that. They're not like FP&L, okay? The county utility isn't going to do anything for anybody that person doesn't pay for. FP&L goes to the Public Service Commission and says, I want to harden these lines so hurricanes don't damage them, and our ratepayers are going to pay for that. The county utility says, no way our ratepayers are paying for anybody else's work. It's not going to happen. There's also an effort right now, and I sound like I'm being negative on the county. I'm not. You know, they have their own priorities. They have their own thing. Okay. There's also a move underfoot to expand the urban service boundary. So if the urban service boundary is expanded, like I think it might be expanded, it's going to open up a large group, a large plat of land south and west in the county, as well as in the middle of the county, a big donut hole that's in there right now, a lot of land for development. And so when they have a developer who's going to develop 500, 700, 800, 1,000 acres and is willing to pay for the infrastructure to be put in, that's where the efforts go. That's where the efforts go. That's where the capacity goes. They only have a certain amount of water consumption that they can pull from the ground. They only have a certain amount of gallons of sewage that they can treat in their plants, okay? Now, they say during the discussions about the urban service boundary that they're okay between now and 2050, even with the anticipated growth. I don't know, because we haven't serviced all of those septic tanks in Sebastian, as well as all those septic tanks in the south part of the county that are there and haven't been mitigated yet. The cost to mitigate a septic tank to the new hybrid tanks that the state's going to require runs somewhere in the neighborhood of $20,000 to $25,000 per house. And it's now if the county utility were to determine, for example, that they could use a step system like they're using in Port St. Lucie and other cities, then the cost to convert a current septic tank to a step-based septic tank that has a pump in it and so forth requires that the lines be put in by the county for those things to cap into, but it doesn't require that you mitigate your septic tank and it'll all be gravity fed and so forth. Much cheaper as far as the utility is concerned. So given all of this, I think it's our responsibility to do something with this. So I'm going to ask the council for its consensus for us to establish a project for the city manager and city attorney, and to provide for us the options that we have, what the potential cost of those options are. And I'm talking about for the city manager, for example, to look at existing septic systems and estimate the cost of each of those and what it would take to convert the city's septic. If we have to do it on our own, we have two options. Option number one is we put the enhanced systems in. Option number two is we build a treatment plant. That's our second option, okay? We don't have any options in the middle of that. Now, if we build a treatment plant, we've got to run pipe, okay, to do that. So I'd like for the city manager to provide for us information on those two options and what the potential cost is. What's it cost, for example, to migrate your current septic tank to a step-based septic tank or to a enhanced septic tank? And what type of grant opportunities are there out there? I mean, I've been told by members of the legislature that they will help us get grant money. So what kind of grant money is out there? You know, I don't care if I'm getting grant money for the county utility or if I'm getting it for Sebastian, if it helps Sebastian residents, okay? The second thing for the city attorney is to look at our legal opinion, get a legal opinion on what our options are under our current interlocal agreement. What position can Sebastian take under that interlocal agreement? And then to identify projects by other cities. West Melbourne just did this. They just pulled out of the Melbourne utility system and took it over. So there are lawyers out there who know how to do this, and we can get information from them on exactly what the process entailed and so forth.
So can you consider consensus on that being a complex matter and me seeking outside counsel?
I guess I would definitely think you'd want to get outside counsel.
Okay.
I mean, it's probably such a narrow piece of the law that you need to definitely get somebody
So
involved.
can I ask for, well, I'll let you finish. I'm sorry,
Okay,
sir.
all right. And then let's talk about the legal options that the city has. What can we do legally and not do legally, okay? Because like I'm saying, the only two, for the council, the only two ways we can do this on our own is to move every current septic tank to the new system or to build a treatment plant. It's the only two ways we can do it. We can't fix the old septic tanks. They're not, under Florida state law, they're not available after a certain date, which right now is July 1, 2030. And we can't instill cheaper septic systems like step systems without having a plant to move the waste to. Okay, so we can't do that. So the interesting thing for us to determine is what are our options? What's a broad brush cost? And when I say broad brush cost, I'm talking about what an architect and engineer would do when they design a building, okay, not what they would do when they build construction drawings, okay? What's the broad brush cost of that? And then let us see about going forward with that. You know, I'm not comfortable that the city of Sebastian's residents are protected in this. I'm just not. And I think what we have to do is that it's up to this council to do that. No one else is going to protect the residents of the city but this council. I know we had a gentleman here tonight that thought that we didn't care about doing that, but if anybody who's followed us for a long time, that's exactly what we like to do up here, is to protect the citizens of the city, okay? So what is the conversation from the council?
Absolutely. We're always overlooked. If it's not up to us, it's not going to happen.
You know, sat in a meeting here in this chambers when they were talking about the Roseland Road project. And they sat here, the people that ran the meeting, which was not us, sat here and gave the impression that once we got that pipe ran down that road to the airport and the other places, that anybody on Roseland Road would be able to connect to it. That was the impression they gave. I couldn't tell you if they said word for word that, but I was sitting here and that's the impression I got from them. That pipe got done because of us, because of the grant money we got for the airport to help get it done. I can tell you I know two people that have contacted the county that live on Roseland Road that have been told, no, you're in the city, we're not connecting anybody in the city. We're only doing people in the unincorporated areas. So to me, that said to me, if we're going to do what we need to do for our citizens, it's going to have to be us do it.
That's right.
So I'm agreeing with you completely. We need to at least see what our options of taking care of our own city are.
Just a little follow-up on that is that when they actually put that extension out to Roseland Road, they had to run it through our CRA.
Right.
And we still haven't been able to get the connections taking place within the CRA. The Indian River Lagoon is still important to people right now.
Extremely
At the
important.
state level, it's important to people. At the federal level, there is money. Anybody out there who's ever followed politics understands what happens when that pendulum starts to swing. Soon, there's going to be something more important. I don't know, maybe it's a war with Iraq, I don't know. But soon, there's going to be something more important, and the money's going to dry up. But the responsibility to convert these septic tanks will not dry up if the state keeps pushing it. We'll have no choice but do that. So, Bob?
I think just have Brian come back with the options, because I think the legal matter is going to cost money first. So I think we should see what the options are. And if we decide if we want to do that, then we got to go forward legally, because that'll cost us to get an opinion. So I think we should get the options first and see, are we inclined to do this?
Okay. What I'm asking for consensus for tonight is for the two of them to put together a plan.
Right.
And identify what resources they need and what the cost of those resources to move forward, and then bring that back to us. Right. And then what we'll do is approve that plan, and when we do, we know we're going to have to throw money at it to do that. I'm hoping it doesn't take a whole lot of money to put the plan to do it together, but that we can get a cost estimate on what it takes to execute that plan.
But I also don't want to get into, let's get our own plan. I hate these things with dual plan, like they're going to do another plan, 18 to 24 months. It's kicking the can down the road. People forget about it. I don't want to wind up us doing a plan that ultimately is not going to be implemented.
I'd kind of like to see this plan to do a plan from them within the next couple of, within the next couple of meetings. I don't know what their schedules are like on that, but it's important that we move forward on this. So maybe they can give us a date at our next meeting on when they can do that. But I think we should be in a position within at least 12 months, if not sooner than that, to be able to either decide, are we going to go out and finance this through some financial means? Are we going to get grant money to do it? How are we going to do it? And what is our option? And then either kick it or don't kick it. I'm not in favor of procrastinating on this personally at all. It's been procrastinated on for way too long.
I think we should also look down at the lagoon where there is sewer.
There isn't. We can't connect to it.
Well, there are some down there.
Right?
But the ones that aren't, that have not connected.
That's because we provided a grant to those people to build the lift stations or to do what they had to do. But right now, we're trying to get, how many septic tanks are in the CRA right now?
93, I think. No,
All right,
93.
93. We paid Schulte, what, $60,000?
I do not know what.
Some number of thousands of dollars to put together an engineered plan to connect all those. At the time, I thought it was 144 septic tanks, but I understand it's less. To put all those septic tanks on the collective system. We paid Schulte to do that. He developed an engineered document exactly where the lift stations were going to be, how many had to be put in, what lots were going to use, what lift stations, which ones could be gravity. He put together a complete engineered plan. That plan has been surfaced and disseminated for the last 2.5 years, and there's been no action on it. What Brian was told yesterday was they're going to take action, but he wasn't told when, he wasn't told how. I'm at a point where we just need to decide whether we're going to protect our citizens or whether we're going to continue to depend on people to protect them who just haven't done it in the past.
Well, then we've had talks with them, and we talk, and a bunch of meetings. How about if, you get on their next agenda and you talk about, Sebastian is here. We had this plan for 2.5 years. We understand you want to do it yourselves. When is it going to happen? And put the pressure on them. We could sit here all day, but go to their meeting and tell them we'd like to see this plan implemented, especially down
I would prefer that we get on our agenda and we say, this is the plan for us to convert 8,575 septic tanks, and we're going to go out this week for funding on this. If you want to include that in your process and you can do it, that's fine. I don't want to walk down there and get on an agenda and say, will you please support Sebastian? Because we've done that before, many times. I'm not being negative, it's just not in their business interest.
Right. It's easier when you get a brand new development, they do the whole thing.
Yes.
We're coming in, but everything's all around us. It shouldn't be that difficult.
Right. So I'm just not comfortable that the citizens of Sebastian are protected, and that sometime in the very near future, the worst thing that could happen here is DEP walks in here and condemns 2,000 septic tanks. Now, what do? Those people are on their own to replace those septic tanks with something that's going to cost them over $20,000.
The 5 of us could show up to their next county commission meeting and invite the media, and we could say, what are you doing?
We've done that.
Okay.
Brian's
no problem
done
getting
that.
rowdy.
I think we need to put together a document that says what our options are and gives us more detail. This is, I don't know. I'm not.
I agree.
I'm not doing this from an anti-anything. I'm not laying fault with them. I'm just saying their interest
Well,
are
it is
their
their
interest,
fault.
and they don't fit our interest, maybe. And it's not our responsibility our responsibility is solely to the city of Sebastian. Fred,
Right.
you agree?
No,
But they have
I
a service that
understand that.
they're failing to provide.
Yeah, I understand that, and I don't have a problem with them going out and looking at things, but what I can tell you is that there's new leadership at the county, there's new leadership here. I would like to see, they will continue working together, and I am very hopeful that they can work things out. But in the meantime, I don't have a problem with us taking a look at something that, if things fall through, that we have something for us here, because we do need to take care of Sebastian. But I want to make sure we give them an opportunity, the new leadership from the city and the county, to hash some of these things out. So,
Brian, comments?
I have no additional comment.
Brian has tried.
I would just tell you that Brian won't say it, but Brian's been working with them for months.
Yes.
Okay, and he's probably told you that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so if you have a different impression about what you've been hearing than I do, then.
What I'm hearing is more of the same.
Well, I was going to say, to be honest, we have new leadership here, but Brian's not making the decisions we are, and we're not new.
Yeah.
It's the same at the county. The county administrator's new, and I would hope that he would do in his best interest to support his entire county. But the county commissioners are the ones that are making the rules, the ones that are making the push, and they haven't changed, and it doesn't seem like the push forward to get Sebastian done is a priority.
Exactly.
I'm not questioning them individually and their performance in their jobs. I'm just saying that it seems that the priorities always shift away from Sebastian. Mm-hmm. And that what we need to do is to get enough information so that we can move forward if we have to on our own.
no,
And
I
without
agree.
information, we can't. I mean, I have no idea right now what the cost would be. One of the things I would think that Brian would do is go out to a couple of septic tank companies and say, okay, what would it cost me to put this new hybrid septic tank in? I've heard at the state, this was in Tallahassee, $22,000 or $25,000. I don't know if that's true or not.
It is.
I don't know. I really don't. So, the thing to do at that point in time would be to get some real information about what it is and then talk about funding. I mean, we're probably talking about a $100 million project before it's over with.
Yeah.
And so, what do we do to fund that if we have to fund it? I mean, if we can take the next 50 years and step through it through a really good stepwise process, that's fine. But we need to understand what we're talking about before we know whether we can do that or not.
As of right now, we don't have 50
And we need a
years.
commitment and a plan from our current utility. If we know we're going to work with them to make it happen, we need a plan that tells when they're going to do what. This thing about saying, I'm going to take care of you without telling me whether you're going to do it on Thursday is meaningless to me. I mean, I don't expect that from our staff. I would hate for our staff to come up here and say, oh, I want to do this and I'm going to pave this road sometime. I wouldn't want to hear that from Karen.
Yeah, we don't want to hear it. At the end of the day, we must do what we must for the city of Sebastian.
Yes.
That's for sure. I'm just the optimistic person that I'm hopeful that in the near future that things are going to change in our direction. But I do believe we need to start looking out for ourselves right now, have a plan ready to go. So,
Okay. So are you
Have
in
consensus.
consensus?
Yes.
Okay, so
Let's be prepared.
do you have enough, Brian?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Jennifer, do you have enough? And yes, I know you're probably going to have to hire counsel to do that, but what I'd like to know is what, in your first document back to us would be what you think the cost of that would be.
Roughly.
Okay. I mean, there are some areas that are complex, and this is one of them. I've already reached out to one lawyer to get engagement information, and I have his rates, but I think we may have a better option. He actually ended up with a conflict. I think we may have a really good option in the near future that you'll be in favor of. So I can't say it right now. I really can't say it tonight. I'm sorry.
Okay, don't say it.
So I think it will be reasonable possibly. If not, we may have to go to another option, which may be a little more expensive. Utilities and septic to sewer and things of this nature can be very complex, and I've seen hourly rates as high as $900 an hour for utility attorneys. So I'm, definitely not
We're a
trying to
small
go.
city.
I know. This was Gainesville. I
Who lied
believe.
to you?
I saw that.
You know, this is kind of like hiring an attorney as the chief guy
I mean, I'm a
in town.
board-certified local government attorney, but I am not a utility attorney.
I know.
So I'm going to do my best for you, and
Yeah.
I'll, do what I can.
Hey, Mr. Mayor.
We don't need somebody that works with the Public Service Commission because they don't report to one.
Okay.
If a member of the public wanted to speak about this, I wasn't sure
No,
because it's not really.
It's under our.
It's under his matters. That's what I
it's under
thought.
our
Okay.
Under our matters. Okay. Brian, is that it from you?
That is all I have for tonight.
City clerk.
You sure that's enough, Brian?
Just so you guys know, I forewarned him.
I don't have anything tonight. Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Nunn.
Nothing for tonight.
Nothing. Okay. Vice Mayor Dixon.
I think that was enough. Thanks.
Oh. Okay. I just want to thank all those people sitting over there for hanging around. If people don't understand, all of our department heads, or I guess the majority of them, are in the council room right now, and they've been there all evening listening to stuff they probably don't really want to know about. But I thank them for all hanging around. And Fred was exactly right. We have probably one of the best city staffs that we could hope for. So
Absolutely.
I think we're in a good shape with that. I just want to address the gentleman who was here earlier and left upset. We do really care about the city, and we don't make decisions lightly, and including the waste management decision. Just so you know, we were looked at raising the cost for 70% of our residents from like $14 a month to $44 a month if we went with the other option, and that was untenable to some of us to do. So that was the reason that we went with the universal option, was to stop from doing that. So that's just what it is. Councilmember Partland.
Well, I thought you would mention it. Mr. Dodd and I were at the Metropolitan Planning Organization meeting this morning, and the big thing is the Sebastian Inlet Bridge is going to be replaced. A $130 million project. And they're going to have a meeting, showcasing it at the Sebastian Community Center, July 17th at 6 p.m. And I mean, it's awesome. I think the existing bridge is 34 feet wide.
Yeah.
And this one's going to be 62 feet wide. And it's going to have 6 bump outs where you can look out over either the ocean view or the river view. I mean, it's one of the most scenic bridges now, I think. And actually, the design that FDOT came up with was it won the award for most innovative plan. And I think it is something to see. They're going to be increasing the widths of the piers that are below. It's just going to be awesome. So this is a time for July 17th, one of the community meetings, going out, any other inputs you want to have. This is the time, because the plan is they'll start building in 2026, and it'll finish the latter part of 2030, which will probably be 2031 at least. But, I mean, it'll be a sight to see. That's it.
Councilmember Jones.
No, sir.
No, sir? All right, then we are adjourned.
Okay, Bob, were there any